On the field, off the field, sports talk, entertainment, and more. This is Sauce on the Side.
Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to episode 106 of the Sauce on the Side podcast. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Drake, joined by the man, the producer, Mr. Leighton Pip Shaventum.
Boys, life hack. Heard about this last week. Figured to try it out.
Okay.
What kind of deodorant do you guys use? Stick or spray?
You said deodorant?
Yeah.
Stick.
Put that shit in the refrigerator. And in the morning when you use it, you feel all refreshed, get a jolt of energy because it's a little cold, wakes you right up.
It's like the menthol cigarette for your armpits.
It's genius.
You use gel or the white stuff?
It's like I think it's solid gel. It's not white. I don't know what they call it.
Oh, it's Axe.
It's Axe, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
exactly.
Okay.
Like it's Old Spice, but it's the same thing. Same idea.
Okay. So our guest host today is Fletcher Hoig.
You know, yesterday I heard that somebody said the Colts were turning into the Boston Celtics. They weren't taking advantage of their draft capital. They weren't spending their money on free agency. And I kind of disagree just because of two different sports, you know. In the NBA, if you got a bunch of B minus guys, you're like the 7-8 seed out west, and you're the 4-5 seed out east. But if you have a bunch of B minus guys in the NFL on your roster, you're 11-5. So that's pretty good. I think it's the difference between sports is what people fail to recognize.
No, absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. So, Dippers, be sure to listen to us on Spotify and iTunes. Download, subscribe, and give us a 5-star review. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Saucy Pod. Guys, we have a very, very good show for you today. We have an interview with Christopher Harris. Guys, the name might be familiar, and it will be if you win fantasy leagues, because the guy is an absolute stud when it comes to fantasy football. Puts out a lot of good content, has his own podcast, YouTube shows. He's worked with the Washington Post. A lot of very, very good information from Christopher Harris. We will talk about our top 5 running backs this season. We will talk about value guys and guys that we are not going to touch on some more NFL news, some early injuries, some holdouts in the NFL, and hit on a little baseball chatter. So, before we get to any of this, guys, since it is the dead part of the year, we will start off our show talking about a stadium. Guys, Steve Ballmer is the all-time GOAT of a hype man. They went out, they announced their new players, unveiled the look of their new stadiums. Guys, this new stadium is absolutely ridiculous. It's supposed to be privately funded. Have you seen the stadium
I'm
yet?
looking it up right now.
It's amazing. It's all green. There are even palm trees even inside the stadium. And the top of the stadium is supposed to like symbol a basketball going through a net. That's like why all the little diamond shapes are through it.
Yeah, it absolutely looks awesome. I saw the top view, and the top view is awesome. Like, you know, very rarely do you have stadiums that you recognize as soon as you see just from an aerial view. Granted, it's, you know, going to be downtown LA, so it might be kind of obvious to notice that. But the top view of this thing is absolutely unreal.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
It's going to be in Inglewood, and there are actually some legal troubles with it right now because James Dolan and the New York Knicks actually own the old, the Western Forum where the Lakers used to play. And it's in that same area, and there's like some property issues going on right now, and they don't want to have another venue taking away, you know, concerts, shows, whatever, from them. So that's pretty shitty of James Dolan again, ruining everybody else's fun.
James Dolan's really kind of shit time right now.
Dude, James Dolan just needs to sell that team because, I mean,
Yeah, he could go away.
not only is he trying to ruin things in one of the largest basketball markets in New York and has basically ruined it himself, he's trying to ruin everybody else's fun in LA, and those are the 2 biggest markets in the NBA.
Yeah.
It's a really cool stadium.
Yeah, it is.
It's awesome. It is absolutely awesome. What do you guys think about it actually being privately funded and, you know, Steve Ballmer basically footing the bill for a lot of this?
It'd be awesome to have Microsoft money.
Yes, it would.
That'd be
I saw earlier that
best times you could have, I think.
his wealth was it was like a net worth of like $54 billion.
Yeah.
So whenever you talk about guys who own stadiums and people that are like these filthy rich guys who are going to make money off the stadiums, it's crazy whenever they always come out and say, oh, we're just going to raise everybody's taxes, make the taxpayers pay for it. Mm-hmm. The guy's a bona fide billionaire. Like, yep. I love that that he's doing this, makes the Clippers the likable team in LA. A lot of good stuff from there. Does this kind of change the look of the landscape and things in LA. You know, the Clippers have always been the little brother to the Lakers, but now they will not be playing in the Staples Center, the place that everybody knows that the Lakers play at. Does this kind of change the balance in your opinion?
Step in the right direction and changing the balance, but I think right now, as long as they stay in the same building, as long as before we see how this Kawhi and Paul George thing works out, there's still a little brother to the Clippers.
To the Lakers.
Lakers, yes.
Yeah. I don't want to be hyperbolic or anything, but I think Steve Ballmer right now is like the best owner in sports because he immediately came in, got the right front office people. He had Lawrence Frank as his GM, gets Jerry West to work in the front office as well. Got Doc Rivers, got Sam Cassell, got a lot of good assistant coaches, built the roster the right way. And then, like you said, the building is going to be privately funded, so he's going to take care of all of it. And I knew Steve Ballmer had money beforehand. You work at a CEO for Microsoft, you're going to have hella money. But he overpaid for the Clippers just to make sure he could get it, and everybody was telling him, like, dude, you overpaid for that team big time. He goes, don't worry about it. He said, I'm never looking to sell it again. Like, he was just looking to buy it so we could have it. And so, I think he's like, I don't want to be hyperbolic, like I said. I think he's the best owner in pro sports right now. Over Mark Cuban in the NBA, for one. A lot of people say that, in Dallas, it's a big market, no state tax in Texas. But people don't want to go there. Players don't want to go there because they feel like the brand of Mark Cuban is too big and overshadows the players, And Steve Ballmer, he's got a big personality, but he's not overshadowing anybody. Like, when you look at the Clippers, you think it's all their success. Like, you don't associate Steve Ballmer with any of it, but then you see the energy he brings to a team. It's really awesome. So, I think, like you kind of talked about with the Kawhi and Paul George thing, if they win a title at some point with that crew and they get their new stadium, and let's say the Lakers don't win one with LeBron James while he's there, they're trending up, and the Lakers are definitely trending down. It's not even a question.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's a perfect balance that he is now an owner in the league that is kind of ran by David Silver. Like, because, he's very progressive as an owner, or as the main guy in the NBA, and Ballmer's very progressive as an owner of a team. So I think it's a perfect mix between those two. And like Fletcher said, he might be the best owner in pro sports. And right now, in the small sample size that we have, he's blowing it away.
Since 2014, he's the best owner in pro sports.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. And whenever he gave that press conference and he drops the, woo!
Yeah. He's like, I got these notes. I'm just too fired up right now.
Yeah, that was absolutely awesome. The guy is all of us, just with $1 billion.
Yeah.
He is a fan living out his dream, and it is absolutely awesome to see.
When he gets that own arena and he can run whatever he wants in there, like, I would not be surprised if they said, yeah, Steve Ballmer runs 5-on-5s in whatever the name of their stadium is during the summer. I could see that.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, yeah, he's calling other owners or governors of the NBA teams, like, running fives, him and Mark Cuban, team captains. That's just what I want to see.
Actually, I noticed on the rendering they have a basketball court outside the stadium. That's probably his own personal court that he plays on.
Hey, you guys want to watch me before you go in?
This is okay. Get me and walk out here. Here, the opposing team owner playing one-on-one.
They're going to start calling Steve Ballmer the opening act because he'll be out there just hawking up threes before the game starts. You get the little opening act with Steve Ballmer. You get to go inside, watch him as a fan. It's going to be absolutely awesome.
I feel like watching him back like Michael Scott in The Office.
Oh, my
Makes
God.
a three and don't really make those.
Oh, my God, that's funny.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I love Steve Ballmer.
So, Jake, you think Steve Ballmer is the best owner in sports?
If he's not yet at the end of his run, I think he will be.
If you were to buy the Chicago Cubs, would you lock in 4 straight Super Bowls?
Well, it'd be hard to win Super Bowls as the Cubs, but I get what you're saying.
I meant Bears.
Yes,
Well-
lock it in.
You have any thoughts for us?
Yes, I do.
It was all a dream. I used to read Run Up magazine.
How do the Raptors combat losing Kawhi Leonard? Insert campaign. NFL retroactively needs to give Cody Parkey a pardon in the Chicago Bears Lombardi Trophy. Hard to stop a guy on 4th down when he's on steroids. Andrew Luck, AJ Green, hurt. The NFL season has officially started. The New York Yankees starting rotation. They are who we thought they are. We are officially at the point of sports where we are opening the show by talking about a stadium. Steve Ballmer, Clippers hype man first, former Microsoft CEO second. Matt LaFleur, riding around practice on a cart. Glad to see he's keeping it warm for Aaron Rodgers for week 1. MLB. Following the week of 3 home runs in 4 straight days, the MLB stands by the statement that the ball is not juiced. MLB might just have the shittiest take of the week. Tyreek Hill. It's a shame that he made it through his first practice without coming up limp. And there's a new TV series out this week. It is titled Machete, the series. And it is written by Richie Incognito and the Oakland Raiders. And it will be coming to you on Tuesdays on HBO. And those have been my thoughts. All right, so maybe the new face of the NBA, maybe not this year, but in the next coming years, has signed with Jordan. So Zion is officially a Jordan athlete, one of the few guys that aren't in Charlotte as a Jordan athlete. Fletcher, what are your thoughts on this? And was it a surprise to you that he signed with Jordan?
Definitely a surprise, and I think it was definitely the wrong move. First off, it wasn't the best offer reported financially. Apparently, Nike made a larger, I don't know about annual salary, but total contract salary would have been more money with Nike from what I've been told. So you think about the financial aspects, he took less money. If I was his agent, if I was anybody's agent in any sport, I would never advise you to take less money. But he did, so he didn't take the best offer. That's strike one. Strike two, if you sign with Jordan, Jordan is a subsidiary of Nike. So like Jordan's already its own brand from Nike. You're not going to be able to develop your own brand in Jordan. CP3 didn't, Blake Griffin didn't, Russell Westbrook, Mr. Triple-Double, he didn't, Melo, Joe Johnson, Ray Allen, all these guys were Jordan, never had their own brand, never got like their own, like you look at KD, Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, they have their all signature logos as a subsidiary of Nike.
Even Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, you're not gonna have that with Jordan. And then you look at guys who are looking to build their own brands. D Wade left Jordan. Kawhi Leonard left Jordan. I think it's a huge mistake from a marketing standpoint, building your own brand, and then financially speaking, he left money on the table. I don't think it was a good move all the way around. I think it was a mistake.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. And I kind of think it's funny, though, because like whenever he was in college, obviously Duke was sponsored by Nike, ends up blowing out one of the shoes, and then Nike spent all that time with Zion, basically constructing a shoe personalized for Zion while he was in college. That way he would be able to withstand the power that this guy has. And then it's kind of a slap in the face, that this time these people spent so much time with him, and then ultimately he does sign with Jordan. I think it's a weird move. I do agree with you that it'll be harder to build his own brand. I thought for sure that we were going to get a Zion Williamson with Nike and maybe come out like with Mount Zion shoes, where like this, you could take these shoes that are supposed to be like unbelievable. It can withstand the power of Zion Williamson, so they're so durable they won't break on you. I thought that would have been a great thing to brand, but he's with Jordan.
I mean, you look at like the different logos Nike has. Tiger Woods is a great logo. It's vertical. The T flows into a W. You could have done the same structure with that, a Z into a W, but then around it, kind of do like the Mamba thing almost, and shape it into something else. You have like a mountain, and that's the Mount Zion kind of shoe. Like that would have been perfect.
That would have been awesome. I think they swung and missed on a great opportunity there. I think Zion even did the same.
I can't wait till Fletcher goes to an interview at a marketing firm. He said, listen, I can market things. Listen to the podcast, 106, minute 12.
Minute 12, listen to me.
I absolutely love it. So guys, let's go ahead and head to some NFL news. So OBJ made some comments about the Giants, and I will read his quote real quick. I felt disrespected because I felt like I was the main reason keeping the brand alive. They were getting primetime games still as a 5-11 team. Why? Because people want to see the show. You want to see me play. That's the real rap. I'm not sitting here. It's because of me, but let's be real. That's why we're still getting primetime games. Eli Manning responds by saying, we won a few games before he was here. What were your guys' thoughts about this falling out and comments from both players?
So to start with OBJ, the Giants get primetime games because one, they're in New York. Two, they play the Eagles and Cowboys. That's, I guess, the biggest rivalry going on in the NFL right now because all three of those teams, all three of those teams, these Cowboys and Eagles seem to contend for the title every single year. They happen to win to the Giants at a key point in the season. And Eli Manning, for a good last 4 or 5 years, it's because OBJ made that one catch on national television. You go to the game, what do you see? A lot of OBJ jerseys. You don't see Manning or Shepard or Barkley even. They're all OBJ.
Yeah, I agree with you because I think both players are right in their comments. I mean, like you said with the jerseys thing, he had by far and away the most jersey sales, and everybody at the New York Giants game was wearing his jersey. And even from Nike, they've bought into him big, head and shoulders. He was really marketable, and I mean, in a sense, he was right. A part of it, like we talked about off the air, he did play in a big market. He was in a division with some other big markets too. Eli Manning was totally right though in his comments. Like you kind of have to laugh at that. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champion, won plenty while he was there. They had good teams there. They had Brandon Jacobs, Tom Coughlin, a lot of success there. Ultimately, though, I got to side with Eli Manning just because he has 2 Super Bowls. OBJ's been kind of like all talk, not really done a whole lot. I mean, he's got a lot of personal success, but it's all activity without achievement, in my opinion. I think Eli definitely kind of won that, and I think his response was great, too. He didn't even pay it really much mind at all. Where OBJ kind of started the whole initiative. I mean, he obviously thinks about it. He's obviously consumed by it seems like, so.
No, I absolutely agree with you there. So, the game of the week, basically, the most primetime you can get is Monday night. You're the only game of the day, Monday Night Football. That's what people get up for. And you look at this, he was not the reason for them getting these primetime games. You look at this year, there are 2 teams in the NFL that have Monday Night Football games, and the Browns, now that they have OBJ, are not one of them, even though they're one of the teams that people are most excited to see this season. It's the San Francisco Giants and the San Francisco 49ers and the New York Giants. Those are the only 2 teams, and that's because, one, you have the San Francisco 49ers, who basically everybody's been a fan of since the 90s, since, the 80s.
Yeah.
Everybody's gravitated towards that team, and everybody knows the 49ers brand, and everybody happens to know the Giants brand because they are in such a large market, being the number 1 team in New York, no matter how bad they are. So I think for OBJ to come out and say that he's the number 1 reason that they were getting primetime games, it's absolutely foolish, because that Giants team, without you, is still getting more primetime airtime and the most important games over the Browns, who are supposed to be one of the most exciting teams in the NFL this year. So, for a guy like OBJ, who's only played in 16 games in the last 2 seasons, to come out and say this, it's absolutely crazy, especially whenever you're going to head-to-head with a guy like Eli Manning. We know Eli Manning's past his prime, but the guy still won 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So, I think the name Manning is way more marketable than anything OBJ will ever accomplish in his career. Kind of a bummer for OBJ to kind of go out like this. So the next bit of news here we have, Antonio Brown showed up to the Raiders training camp in a hot air balloon just to sit on the sidelines with an injury. Guys, has he officially lost his mind?
I think he officially lost his mind like 2 or 3 seasons ago. But this happened 1,000% because HBO needs something for a cold open of Hard Knocks next week, and it's going to be him coming in on this freaking hot air balloon. Bet it 1,000%, find it somewhere. That's what it's going to be.
Like the Texans show, whenever they opened up with basically J.J. Watt, being there at dawn.
Slow walking out?
Yes.
Yeah. It's
going to be the exact same thing. It's going to open up the show. You'll see the hot air balloon flying in. You'll be like, what the hell is this? And then AB gets off of it, and then that's going to
And then, the credits roll. Yeah.
Yeah. OBJ. Antonio Brown, he is all about, making a show. I don't think this makes him lose his mind. I knew he lost his mind when he started dyeing his mustache fucking blonde. So, here's the thing. He's a show. He's a big distraction. He posts every single workout he does online. You seem to see it all, whether it's bouncing on a Bosu ball or catching a brick with one hand or whatever. Like, he's all about making a show, and he's all about showing about himself. We kind of know that's why he left Pittsburgh or got shipped out of Pittsburgh. So, this isn't anything new to me. I do think a part of it is for Hard Knocks, like you guys mentioned. But, if this is about if he lost his mind just now, no, it's not.
No, he lost his mind long before that. Like you said, the blonde mustache, Mr. Big Chest, posting videos of him doing workouts with Versace slip-on shoes on.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but I think that if you're putting in actual work, like actual hard work in the off-season, you're not going to be wearing Versace slip-ons at your workout.
Yeah.
Call me crazy, but I think I'm right on that. So, guys, next up, Zeke Elliott was a no-show to the Cowboys' first practice at training camp. Zeke still has 2 years left on his rookie deal. Do you think it's kind of problematic that players are starting to hold out with 2 years left on their deal?
Yeah, it's problematic because... So, this is what... This would be his 4th in the league, right? Because it's 5-year deal, 5th-year option. Okay, yeah. So, he's saying that before the option, even. So, the Cowboys that chance at all. So, now we got to think of... When will players start holding out before they reach their second season? And this is what was agreed upon in the CBA. The NBA's turned off on it, and the players agreed that, okay, we'll just have this 4 years and 1 year option for rookies. But now we see rookies, especially running backs, be very productive and have their wheels ran off the first 4 years, get 5th-year option, and then they're toast by the 6th season. So I think we're going to see more of this even to guys who, maybe take on Barkley, Fish McCaffrey even, just want to hold out and say, I'm not going to play the next 2 seasons because I'm going to be tired and not get paid ever.
Yeah, I mean, him holding out with 2 years ago, he kind of has all the leverage in this situation because not hurt, still got plenty of, like you were talking about, tread on the tires. He's still got plenty of that still. He can still go. So it's kind of problematic. If this was the NBA, it wouldn't even be a question. I would just say pay him. But it's like I did with my intro. There's a difference between sports. You don't really need a great running back. You don't need 3 to 5 just great players on an NFL team to win you a title. I think in this situation, what you need to lean on doing is looking at trading him. You're never going to get better value for him because, like we said, he's got all that tread on his tires. He's got 2 years left on his contract. Maybe another team will pay handsomely for him. You go up on that draft capital with all that extra space now. You can sign that young defense you have. You can pay Dak. You can pay Amar. You can keep the offensive line. And the thing on top of that is, if you don't have Zeke and Dak underperforms, you can look and say, like, hey, right there, buddy, you didn't have a running back and you couldn't show it for us. We're not going to pay you. We can't commit to you like that, and no other NFL team is. So I say explore trading him just because you don't need one great running back to have a great team.
Yeah, I honestly could see that as a viable option for the Cowboys. You do have to pay Amari Cooper. That's an obvious statement there. You have to evaluate Dak Prescott with and without Zeke Elliott, which we've seen him in the past struggle without having that premier running back. Maybe if you go to the open market, you trade him, you get somebody who might be just a touch older, and you end up getting value back with picks. It could cause a very interesting conversation there because really anybody that you throw back there in that Cowboys backfield for 16 games will rush for over 1,000 yards. Doesn't matter who it is. You can put Dak Prescott back there running back and he'll rush for 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
That offensive line's unreal. But I think that just the fact that he's sitting out with 2 years left is a very bad look for what the CBA, the players' standpoint, has created for themselves. It's going to run them into a kind of a problem later down the road whenever they come out and they try to shorten these rookie deals because that's ultimately what they're going to have to do, especially at the value at the running back, because once these running backs hit the open market, able to get that first big contract, they're going to be 27 years old, so I think they're going to kind of shorten that out. I think I saw somewhere where the average salary of the player is the second lowest for running back. I think long snapper's the only one that's lower than that. Kicker's even higher. So I think they're going to have to come up with something that is specifically designed to help these running backs because they are obviously such a large part of the NFL rosters, but unfortunately, people look at them as a dime a dozen. They value the offensive line more. They value the quarterback, wide receiver, every position more so than the running back. It's going to be kind of a problem. Latency, what do you think that the Cowboys should do here? Do you think they should just go ahead and pay the man?
No, absolutely not. You're not going to pay him right now. He gets $200 deal. You have for 2 more seasons. I'm just going to hold out. But then we talked about last week. He's an absolute liability in the offseason. Yeah. And you have to evaluate all that, too. And if I was a Cowboy, there's no way I'd pay him right now.
Yeah, I talked about...
And another thing, too. They're going to set a precedent. If you give in and pay him, that means you're going to say that NFL teams will do this. So this is the Cowboys' chance. The Cowboys somehow always find their way into the spotlight. And this is a chance to set a precedent. And what Jay Jones loves to do.
Yeah, I talked about this last week with Melvin Gordon. He's done everything right. Well, Zeke really kind of hasn't, He's had a lot of offseason issues. And it's one thing to hold out with a year left. But 2 years left, I don't like that. You could trade him, get a couple picks, and get a C-plus running back and be just fine in the backfield. And you could be set moving forward, too, because you already gave up a first-round pick to get Amari Cooper. If you move off Zeke, get a competent player, you have Bo Scarborough, I think, then they draft him.
Yes, I don't know if he's still on the roster, though. That kind of runs into a weird spot.
Well, you get a few running backs, and you get the draft capital. You throw anybody back there. You can do a carousel. We've seen that work plenty of times. Talk about the CBA with running backs, though. I mean, I don't know if Jason Garrett has the mental capacity to run a carousel of running backs, though. No, I don't think he does either. 2 things there, actually. One, with the CBA for rookie running backs, I think they should look at shortening the initial rookie contract. I mean, it's a little bit more risk, but, you can get that second contract where you can hopefully make, some real money. Then, talk about Jason Garrett. Jerry Jones really likes Jason Garrett, and that's Jerry Jones' flaw. He has those guys that he likes. It was really hard for them to move off Des Bryant when they obviously should have, and they finally did it. But I think Zeke, just like Jason Garrett, is kind of one of Jerry Jones' guys, and he's going to look to take care of him, and that's a kind of a flaw that he has personally. One of his many, actually.
Yeah, I absolutely agree there. They almost let... had Dak Prescott not came out and just absolutely balled out, they were going to run Tony Romo straight into his grave.
Oh, yeah.
So I absolutely agree there. So, guys, the NFL season has officially started. Like I said, A.J. Green has already been carted off the field at a Bengals practice. Lower body injury yet again for Green. Bengals will be bad with or without him, so we're really not going to talk about, what does this do for the Bengals? I think they're just going to be bad. And general consensus, yes?
Yep.
Okay. So what does this do for his fantasy value?
Just got an update. He'll be out 6 to 8 weeks with torn ligaments in his ankle.
God damn.
Wow.
Torn ligament sucks.
Yep. So earliest, I guess, week 2 or 3 of the season, at latest week 5. Yeah, it's not good. He definitely falls out of the top 4 or 5 rounds for me.
Yes.
Like, you can't even touch him until you have 2 wide receivers, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You have to have 3, in my opinion.
His fantasy value definitely took a hit, but with the Bengals, it's not hard on what you should do. I mean, you gotta look at what you have, sell high on what you can, and just move on. I wrote down no sense in being mediocre, but they're gonna suck no matter what. So you might as well just get all the draft capital you can and look at going forward. No one likes tanking in the NFL, but here's the thing: they're gonna suck anyway. Mm-hmm. So what's the point in sucking and not being the best at it so you can hopefully rebuild?
Yeah, once he comes back healthy, that's something that they could really push for, is to trade. We see wide receivers get traded all the time. Mid-season last year, just a couple names: Amari Cooper, Golden Tate, both very productive wide receivers in the NFL. Both guys got traded midway through the season. So that's something that they could definitely explore. I think with A.J. Green, this is something that you better go out. If you plan on drafting A.J. Green in the middle rounds, which is probably where he's going to go, knowing that he's going to be out those weeks, you better go running back heavy first. Get you a wide receiver. Get a few wide receivers. That way you kind of have the flexibility to go ahead and trade at the deadline and get another piece that you might be lacking. Build your roster first. Kind of just supplement it with A.J. Green. And once he comes back, week 5, I don't think he's going to be as productive as what we've seen in the past. And in fact, he really hasn't been too productive over the last few seasons. He's only had 1,100 yards one time in the last 5 years. And we know he's not going to play 16 games. So chalk it up for what you want. I think this is going to be, unfortunately, the downslide for A.J. Green. Guys, Andrew Luck already missed the first day of practice due to a calf injury. Does this make us worried about Luck and the Colts?
Not one bit.
Not one bit, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. He missed a whole year, and then, week 2, or early in the year anyway, he didn't even throw a Hail Mary, and everybody was super concerned about him. Still throws for 4,500 yards, 39 TDs or whatever. I'm not too worried about it. I understand you being cautious because not only this year, but the next 7 to 10 years is solely reliant not on Chris Ballard or Frank Wright or anybody on that team. It's all about Andrew Luck. So you got to be careful with him. But the thing is, he plays behind a great offensive line. He gets the ball out quickly. He's got a lot of weapons around him. So I'm really not too worried about it.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, once game 1 of the NFL season starts, he's just less likely, even wearing the red jersey at practice, to be hit behind that offensive line. Mm-hmm. So I think it'll be fine. I don't think this is too much of a concern. Now, if this is something that lingers all the way throughout the preseason, yes, but I think they're trying to get ahead of it, keep him out, make sure there's no re-injury of this until he is 100% healthy. Mm-hmm. I'm all in on Andrew Luck with the Colts this year. So it is time to bring back our segment that was first made famous on Hump Day Hoops Hysteria. It is called Fletch on the Fly. Basically, how this works is that Leighton comes up with 3 questions for Fletch, and he has 0 notes, 0 time to prepare, basically thrown at him for the first time. Leighton C., what do we have today?
Fletcher, since the Hall of Fame game is later this week,
okay,
do you read some NFL questions?
Great. My strong suit.
You're best at this. So, which team that finished last in the division this year and more likely to finish first in the division this year?
Man, that's a loaded question because I don't have the standings off the top of my head. So, I mean, I don't have a comprehensive walking knowledge of standings in my head from previous years, but I do think the Jacksonville Jaguars are the team most primed. I think the Texans are good. Obviously, the Colts are loaded. But like we just talked about with Andrew Luck, if he sustains an injury, that division turns, into wide open like it's been in years past. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are there. If Fournette stays healthy, Nick Foles comes in and just doesn't shit the bed entirely. The defense is still there. I think they could have as good a shot as anybody at turning it around.
Next question. Which team that finished first in the division last year finished last in the division this year?
Oh, man.
It's a hell of a turnaround. The wrong direction.
So I can't believe this, thinking about it, but the Ravens finished first in their division. I don't know if they're going to finish last because the Bengals are so bad, but there's just no way the Ravens finish first. I don't think that's going to happen. Cleveland got way better. I don't think they're going to win it. I still think Pittsburgh will win it. Pittsburgh is going to have a hell of a team. They really upgraded that defense a lot. So I think Pittsburgh is probably going to win the division. I could see the Ravens slipping and falling. It really just depends on the project with Lamar Jackson and what they kind of turn out with him. But I think if there was one team to slip to the bottom, it would be the Ravens.
All right, last question. Fletcher, we don't really have you on again. So, Super Bowl champion. Who you got?
Super Bowl champion. I don't know, man. My first three teams I kind of thought of came out of the AFC. So I thought of the Colts, the Chiefs, and the Patriots, of course. I'm biased. I mean, I kind of like the Colts. But they have a great head coach. They have a potential MVP this year in Andrew Luck. They've got a loaded offense, a loaded defense. I think they're kind of my Super Bowl favorites right now, as long as Andrew Luck stays healthy.
All right, Colts it is.
I actually like that. I think that'll be very interesting to see as the season goes on. I like the Colts a lot. So, guys, it is time to get to the fantasy season. We will talk about running backs today, and we will first start off with our top 5 running backs.
So, at number 5, this one, kind of a bold pick, but I got Joe Mixon.
Wow, that is a bold pick.
Very bold.
I thought I was going to have some bold picks on mine. You just took the bold pick award.
Picking your running back from a team that'll be trailing a ton.
It's bold fiction, Jake.
It's bold. It's bold.
We said it was bold.
He's very talented. He's so talented, even. You have a video of him hanging women. Still a second round NFL draft.
Yeah.
Had a good Leo last year. I think he made good things this year. Not having AJ Green right now, if I just found that out, it really hurts my pick right now, but it's like at number 5.
Hey, ball's got to go somewhere, man.
That's right. Yeah. Number 4, I have Saquon Barkley. We're having number 1, that was OBJ. That OBJ, Sterling Shepard's hurt. It had a very hard time in the beginning of the season, but I think he's the most talented running back in all of football, so that's at number 4. Number 3, Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's going to play the games. I think he'll show up. I think he'll be ready to go. Consistent. Over the past 3 seasons, more rushing attempts, more rushing yards, more touchdowns than any other running back. Number 2, Christian McCaffrey, touch monster. Not going to change this year. Ron Rivera already said it. Got Cam Newton, who's clearly banged up. He's on a pitch count practice even. More reason to give McCaffrey carries. Number 1, Alvin Kamara. Mark Ingram's gone. Latavius Murray, a very good running back. Not a good Mark Ingram. Sean Payton knows it. Alvin Kamara will get a lot more catches, more carries. Monster season for Alvin Kamara. Andrew Brees is getting older. Probably can't throw the ball as much as he has in the past.
Yeah. You know what? I tell you what. Joe Mixon was a bold pick, and I thought my 4 and 5 were going to be bold picks, but that was the bold pick. Number 5, I actually have James Conner. He's going to have the whole workload to himself again. No drama. Got a good offensive line. Got competent pieces around him, I tend to think that good players thrive good in good systems, or thrive well in good systems. I think that's going to be the same for James Conner. Number 4, I got Todd Gurley, and it was hard for me to put him in there because, you got the worry with the arthritis in the knees, but they have the second easiest schedule in the NFL. Even with a reduced workload, I think Todd Gurley's going to get probably 18 touches. He's going to catch passes. I think he's going to get goal line work too, so he's going to score touchdowns. You don't always want a guy who's, touchdown dependent, but at the same time, there's no guarantee that he would have a reduced workload either. Number 3, I have Ezekiel Elliott. No really need to overthink it. He might be the best all-around running back in the NFL. If the health of the offensive line's there, he's going to have a monster season. He's going to get plenty of touches. He's just got to actually show up to his job. Number 2, I have Alvin Kamara. They have the 22nd easiest schedule. And then, like you said, Latavius Murray, he's going to be there. He's really not going to take a whole lot of takes away. And you said that it also, Drew Brees, probably not going to throw a ton getting up there in age. Even if they were throwing it, Alvin Kamara, PPR is a machine. And then I said it last week. I'm going to stick to it. I truly do believe it. Le'Veon Bell. I think he's going to be the number 1 running back this year. He's got the second easiest schedule in the NFL. Took a whole year off. He took a whole year off, sat out, worked out, didn't get hurt, didn't get banged up at all. And he's, even when he's there, in years past, he's been a top earner. And so that's another guy I'm not going to overthink. So I got Le'Veon Bell number 1.
So I'm going to start off with a guy at number 5 that nobody has mentioned yet. And I'm going with David Johnson. This will be a steal because I don't think a whole lot of people are going to value him like they really do, maybe the top 4 running backs. So I think there's going to be a little bit of slide there. I think a lot of your leagues, you're going to see the top wide receivers go before you even see David Johnson even thought about being picked. And you think about Cliff Kingsbury. Last year at Texas Tech, they were running 81 snaps per game, which is absolutely insane. They were a very high-tempo offense, a lot of air raid. And I think that the air raid offense is actually going to fit well for David Johnson, a guy who's wanted to be a 1,000 guy in the past. and it's honestly going to open up the running lanes. What this is going to remind me of, I think, this year with him and Kyler Murray, a lot like Alfred Morris with RG3 whenever they would run that read option consistently. A lot of people forget that Alfred Morris had 1,600 yards, 13 touchdowns the one year that RG3 was able to be healthy. The only difference between Alfred Morris and David Johnson is that David Johnson's going to catch at least 60 passes this year. I think last year the reason for his slump was due to the fact that they were kind of using him as a downhill runner instead of trying to stretch the field a little bit, give him open lanes to run. It was basically beating a guy into a brick wall over and over, which would not work.
Didn't the offense do Stanton last year?
Yeah, they were very, very bad at the quarterback position. Next up, I have Saquon Barkley at 4. He will not match his totals from last year. I can just go ahead and promise you that. No OBJ. His production went down 5 points per game. Corey Coleman's out. Golden Tate will miss the first 4 games. And you already have Sterling Shepard, who has a fractured thumb, so there's really no great idea when that's going to be completely healthy. And if you look at the wide receivers, there's really nobody that's going to stretch the field for this team like OBJ last year. Golden Tate's a fine wide receiver option, but he's more of a 7-yard guy who's not going to stretch the field for Saquon. So I think that's going to hamper his production a lot.
He's suspended right now too, isn't he?
Yes, 4 games. Next up at 3, I have Christian McCaffrey. The health on this guy is a triple plus. Last year, I know that there were a lot of running backs that missed time at the end of last season, which is why Christian McCaffrey was able to stretch the lead on guys. But starting in Week 7, he outscored every single running back in the NFL by at least 70 fantasy points. Weeks 1 through 6, his production was not that great. He only had 1 touchdown. Otherwise, this wouldn't have even been close. He'd have been by far your number one guy, because in those first 6 weeks, he was still averaging 100 all-purpose yards per game, just was not finding the end zone. Very unfortunate for him. He will find the end zone earlier this season. There's no way he'll have 1 touchdown in the first 6 weeks unless he's hurt. And the pace that he had, I think, remaining 10 games of the year, or remaining 9, he would have had 19 touchdowns just off of that production at the end of the year. I think Christian McCaffrey is a very, very safe play this year. Safest play in all of football right here. At number 2, I have Ezekiel Elliott. Run-heavy guaranteed offense. Safest pick out there. 18 points per game in his first 7 games without Amari Cooper. 25 points per game once Amari Cooper was slid into that offense. Teams really weren't worried about Cole Beasley beating them deep, believe it or not. Very much like Saquon, with OBJ on and off the field, the production goes up whenever you have a very good wide receiver to take the top of the defense, at least make them respect it. Number 1, I agree with Leighton on this one. Alvin Kamara. He was only 31 points out from being the number 1 running back last year, and he really did not see that much of the offense. He had 308 fewer offensive snaps than Christian McCaffrey, 60 less snaps than James Conner, who missed 3 games, and only 51 more snaps than Peyton Barber. Think about that for a second. Alvin Kamara was only on the field 51 more times offensively than Peyton Barber was, which is kind of remarkable to think about with the different fantasy production you have of these guys. First 4 weeks of the season without Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara was a monster, 9 receptions per game, and Latavius Murray's not going to pull the receiving game away from him, so I think that we're going to see a more productive Alvin Kamara in the receiving game, because once Mark Ingram came back, he didn't even total 9 in a single game. He was averaging 9 prior to Mark Ingram coming back, who can catch the ball out of the backfield. First 4 games, Alvin Kamara, he was averaging 33 points per game. I think we're going to see him flirt with a number 30. I think Alvin Kamara is going to be a monster this year. So guys, we talked about the top-heavy guys. All those guys are going to be gone in the first few rounds of your draft. Give me your top fantasy value running backs.
Well, for me, I tell you what, I'm not always big on guys changing scenes and then you being big into them, but for me, I got to go Mark Ingram in Baltimore. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. I don't think they want Lamar Jackson throwing the ball a lot, so I think they're going to hand it off. Even if they do throw it, Mark Ingram, I think, can catch passes. So he's a value guy for me. Another guy is Nick Chubb. Until Kareem Hunt gets in there, I think Nick Chubb is going to get a full workload. It's going to be like going to the buffet for him. He's going to get all he wants pretty much. Those are 2 big guys for me. Actually, I might as well just give a special shout out, like Christian McCaffrey and then Saquon Barkley. I didn't have them in my top 5. They were very close to being in there. obviously those two guys would be great to have too. But I think as far as value plays, if you want to hang back and select Mark Ingram or Nick Chubb kind of later, I think that you would be, getting good buys on those two players.
I have two guys as well. My first guy is Aaron Jones. Big question on him is will he get the ball? If he gets the ball, he gets a ton of yards and 10 yards per attempt. But will he get the ball? Matt LaFleur has kind of hinted that it's going to be more of a timeshare still. But people around the organization and Aaron Rodgers himself want Aaron Jones to get the ball more. So the potential there, early third round, late third round even to get him. He could be a low in RB1, high in RB2. Another guy is Darius Guy. So last year for the Redskins, a 40-year-old Adrian Peterson got 1,000 yards. So these guys this year come with an ACL tear, should be healthy. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't take over more of the workload than Adrian Peterson come middle of the season. Might not be great for week 1 through 6, but week 7 through 16 or 17, where your season is, I think it'll be a very strong play.
I'm going to go ahead and give you a fantasy nugget that you have to store and you must follow this season. Draft Darrell Henderson.
I knew you were going to say that.
Draft Darrell Henderson. Guys, this Todd Gurley injury is a legitimate thing. If you look at the end of the season last year, it's no mistake to why he tallied off at the end of the year. It was obviously because this guy is not right. If he misses games, Darrell Henderson will be a running back number 1 in those games. I promise that. And even if Todd Gurley's healthy, we saw how they used C.J. Anderson as well, and C.J. Anderson was a machine running with that offense that they have with the Rams. And Darrell Henderson's way more talented than him, way more explosive. This guy is an absolute stud. Next up, I have Tevin Coleman. It's not an accident that he ended up back with Kyle Shanahan. I mean, the guy had 10 or fewer carries last year in 9 games and still ended up with 800 yards. McKinnon, he'll kind of be the pass-catching guy where you have Tevin Coleman, who's obviously the better runner out of the two. It was no accident. I really like Tevin Coleman coming into this season, especially if anything happens with Jerick McKinnon being injured. I like Dalvin Cook. I think he's going to be very productive, especially a guy that's kind of off of people's radars with all the injuries. And then Aaron Jones, like Leighton said, 5.4 yards per carry. Matt LaFleur is not scared to run a guy 20 times in a game. We saw it at the end of last year. And plus, with Aaron Rodgers kind of pushing for Aaron Jones to be the premier back, I think that will help Aaron Jones because Matt LaFleur is not going to want to come in here and step on toes. That's what got McCarthy fired, and I think he's going to want to stay around in the NFL. You keep your quarterback happy, you will be a guy who sticks around with the team for a while. So, guys, we'll go ahead and talk about your fantasy dark horse, the number 1 guy that you have to have rostered.
So there's one guy like to hold out last year and really never got things going. It's Ronald Jones Jr. He's on Tampa Bay. Dirk Cutter is out. Dirk Cutter is a dickhead shit coach.
He bad.
Bruce Arians is a phenomenal top 3 coach in all of football. Could not be more opposite. Could not be more opposite. Ronald Jones Jr. is a first-round pick for a reason. If you remember at USC, there are 2 guys who do anything: Sam Darnold and Ronald Jones Jr. I think Ronald Jr. could have a very big year this year and kind of live up to his first-round precedent.
For me, it's not even a question who that number 1 dark horse sleeper is, who you want, and you already talked about him. It's Dalvin Cook. The dude's a monster. The dude can produce, if he's healthy, that is. But I think, like you said, a lot of those injuries, it's either going to make people forget about him or scare away from him. I think you're going to get really good value with Dalvin Cook. You could be looking at a really like a top 10, top 15 running back this year, potentially.
See, my guy that is a dark horse, I already talked about it, Darrell Henderson, guys. You are going to be able to get him in double-digit rounds. Guys, my fantasy dark horse just 2 years ago, Kareem Hunt. He was sitting 3rd on the depth chart that year. You have Darrell Henderson sitting at 2nd on the depth chart. I don't know if Todd Gurley is going to miss a game. I'm going to say that right now. But if he does, Darrell Henderson is going to be a top 10 running. If Todd Gurley didn't step on the field any games this season, Darrell Henderson's a top 10 running back. I'll tell you that right now. But even if Todd Gurley is healthy, the guy is still going to get touches. He's going to get carries. He's going to catch the ball in the backfield. Darrell Henderson, very, very explosive player. You have to have him rostered, especially at the premium that you're going to get on him.
Did you watch the draft with us?
No.
Well, that's all he would talk about was Darrell Henderson.
I hung on Dick a whole lot, so I feel about this guy from Memphis.
He's a stud.
I heard all about the guy from Memphis.
He's a stud. He's a stud.
One pick away from being the Bears running back.
You're like, absolutely not. He's from Memphis, a running back.
1 pick away from being the Bears running back.
Oh, he was very close. He was very upset.
The last time I was this hyped about a running back from non-mid major was Kareem Hunt. That's all I'm going to say.
So he's going to be suspended 8 games.
Potentially. Potentially, but
keep
all
the
I see-
league, dynasty, keep the league, keep that in mind when you draft this guy.
All I
Bad
can
news,
see
he's
is
also
what
coming
happens
to the
on the field.
Browns, and that's
You'd be
more
the
bad
best.
news for Nick Chubb and you.
Next up, guys, we've seen a lot of rookies make a ton of noise as starting running backs in the NFL over the past few seasons, be very productive for fantasy value. Right now, we will talk about the top rookie running backs coming into this year that you may consider rostering after you kind of get the top guys that you want.
So, Jake, I won't steal your guy. I know who you want to talk about here. But I have two guys for you.
Darrell
One,
Henderson?
okay, two guys you're talking about here. One guy, Josh Jacobs.
Yep.
He's going to be a workhorse back. The thing is, though, is he good enough to really stay healthy? But just off the fact that you know he's going to be a workhorse back, you got to take him. Another guy is Devin Singletary from Buffalo Bills. Came out last week that they might cut LaShawn McCoy. And the other guy is Frank Gore. Frank Gore is a very hard guy to fend off his touches. Can't figure it out, but for some reason, running backs just cannot beat Frank Gore out for touches.
No, they can't.
But Devin Singletary might be the guy to do it. Frank Gore is going on year 200 of his life right now. So Devin Singletary is one guy I'd like to get somewhere in the mid-rounds.
Well, I mean, I don't really keep a whole log of, rookie running backs. I've got a few. You already mentioned one, Josh Jacobs, just because of the workload. If you draft or spend a draft pick that high, or any kind of first round, price on a running back, you're probably going to use him. John Gruden's a very old school guy. Probably believes in one running back. Probably going to look to pay Josh Jacobs as much money as he possibly can, even because he's so bad at what he does. But, I really like David Montgomery, a guy the Bears drafted. They got rid of Jordan Howard. The first thing they start to target there is David Montgomery as far as a running back. And then also, Drake's already talked about it a lot, is Darrell Henderson. You do watch tape on the guy, and he is pretty good. And if he gets any kind of workload with Todd Gurley going down, Darrell Henderson will definitely be a guy to own.
So I'm going to go ahead and start this off. I'm going to go ahead and extinguish the Josh Jacobs hype real quick. So John Gruden, last year they had 4 running backs get 43 touches or more last season. And then the last year that we saw him coach in the NFL, which was 2008 prior to last year, he had 2 guys get 200 touches and 3 guys get 100 touches in the offense in 2008, which was the second to last year we saw John Gruden. So based off the last 2-year track record, it has not been good. And if you look at the totality of John Gruden's career as an NFL head coach, everybody talks about how good he is running the football. Guys, as a head coach, he has had 3 times, this is in 12 seasons, 3 times he's been in the top 10 in rushing offenses. 6 years, he has been in the bottom 10. So half the times that he's coached an NFL team, he has been in the bottom 10 of rushing offense. So I'm going to extinguish the Josh Jacobs hype. Plus, last year, he was 3rd on that Bama team with yards per carry, and he was 2nd in rush yards. He had a 5.3 yards per carry average. You look at that, that's phenomenal. That's higher than guys like David Montgomery, for example. But there has been 7 running backs with at least 100 touches and 5.3 yards per carry in the last 4 years from Alabama. 7 guys in the last 4 years from Alabama has done what Josh Jacobs did. I'm not going to buy into that hype. I think that your top running backs from rookies, I think David Montgomery, he's a very good guy after the first initial contact. Now, that could have been by product of playing in the Big 12 where nobody can tackle. But I'm going to kind of buy into that hype because he will see the offense a lot. He's going to be the downhill runner for Tariq Cohen, so I really like David Montgomery. Number 2, I have Darrell Henderson. I think Darrell Henderson's going to be a monster if he sees the field. I do think he will see the field because I think Sean McVay learned from his mistakes last year of running Todd Gurley's legs off. Number 3, I have Josh Jacobs just because of the simple fact that he will see a lot of touches. Most of these running backs will not. And like Leighton said, David Singletary, you look at the guys that they're going to be bringing back. Obviously, they got Frank Gore this year. I don't see him being a feature back as old as he is. LaShawn McCoy, 3.2 yards per carry last year. Absolutely awful. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be hard to run the ball for the Bills as it is because nobody really respects Josh Allen as a passer. So I like David Singletary, but it's going to be hard for him to get value this year.
Well, his name is Devin Singletary.
Or Devin Singletary.
So you must really hate him. I don't know his name.
No, he's...
It is what it
D.
is.
Singletaries, know that.
Well, I think he's a
I
fine
think
running
Josh
back.
Jacobs has an easy name to remember.
I think he's a fine running back, but you have 3 guys that are going to see carries there. And it's not LaShawn McCoy's fault that he averaged 3.2 yards per carry because Chris Ivory only averaged 3.3. Like, both of those guys were absolutely atrocious last year. I think that's a product of Josh Allen. So, guys, last up, running backs that you will not touch this season.
So both of these guys, I won't necessarily not touch them, but I will not have them because they're going to be drafted at. Mainly because the pain in the ass, can get another guy with them. The first one is Todd Gurley. Talked about on the show already, Jake's hit on really hard. If you draft him, you gotta draft Dylan Henderson. I'm not gonna spend a high draft pick. No, in the back of my mind, I gotta draft another player to make sure he's safe.
Yeah.
The other guy is Sonny Michel. Again, I like Sonny Michel this year, but if I draft him, I know in the back of my mind, I gotta get Damian Hitch at some point in time. He's a third round pick, and so depending on use him, I'm not sure how they're gonna use him, but Sonny Michel cannot be anything in the passing game. Damian Harris can do a little bit of both, so you gotta make sure you get both those guys with Sonny Michel.
I like that Todd Gurley thing because you don't want to just walk out of a fucking draft having a handcuff wasted on a roster spot because that's just like, what if it ever happens and then you just waste that roster spot?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good point. But you already talked about one. I just wrote down the entire New England backfield. I don't want to mess with it. I haven't wanted to mess with it for years. What was that one guy like a year or two ago? They said, well, he's going to get touchdowns, and so everybody wanted him. I can't remember his name off the top of my head now. That's pretty characteristic of a...
LeGarrette Blount?
After Blount, everybody thought he was going to be the next LeGarrette Blount.
I don't know, Rex Burkhead?
No, definitely not Rex Burkhead. Anyway,
There's like 50 running
Yeah,
backs.
they have a lot.
it blows my mind how long.
Oh, Jonas Gray.
That might be it. I don't know.
Had
Anyway,
a 200-yard game.
Didn't play good
no,
last
that's
season.
not him. Anyway, New England backfield, not touching it. Another guy, I've been burned on him now, and so I will not go back to it. But also, him as a player, and now him as a situation I do not like, and that's Jordan Howard. I don't like him being in Philadelphia. I don't like Jordan Howard anymore. Part of the reason why I got rid of him. But Jordan Howard is a guy I don't want to own.
I think a guy that's going to go really, really high that I'm really not sure is that great is Damian Williams. I know he's in a good situation, but it's not going to take much for them to find a running back that is more talented than him. Now, you know, if you're in a keeper league or something like that where you got Damian Williams off the waiver wire, it's smart to keep him. But if you are just doing a redraft, I think you're going to run into some hot water there because I just don't think he's that talented. Another guy is Derrick Henry. It's already came out that Taylor Lewan's going to be missing some games for PEDs, so you go ahead and scratch a few games for Derrick Henry, who basically first time he gets hit, he runs straight up and down. He goes down other than the 99-yard run that he happened to get, that he freaking basically ran straight up like a stick and nobody could tackle him. I've never been a huge Derrick Henry guy. Now that Matt LaFleur's gone, I don't know if they're going to run his legs off like they did at the end of the season last year whenever he got 33 touches in one game. So that's something I'm going to steer clear of. And Todd Gurley, I cannot touch Todd Gurley in the first round. I know what Todd Gurley did last year. He did a great job the first 12 weeks of the season, but I'm going to look more at the end of the season, in through the playoffs. Guys, if Todd Gurley was healthy, I think that he would have gotten the ball in the playoffs.
In the Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl, yeah.
That's the way for at that
Super
point.
Bowl, man.
I mean, you have one chance at this thing. Most NFL coaches, if they get to one, it's only one. So they would have ran his legs off if the guy was halfway healthy. I'm not going to get caught up in that situation. Also, Chris Carson could be a guy that a lot of people are going to value really high. I think I'm going to start leaning towards Rashad Penny this year. I like him. He was productive when he got on the field, but he just never really got on the field. That Seahawks offense, I think, is going to be a really weird carousel of running backs. So, guys, we will go ahead and transition to the interview that I had talked about earlier. Guys, it is Chris Harris. Fletcher sat down with him, had a very good conversation, gives you a ton of knowledge going into this fantasy football season. So, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Harris.
All right, everybody. Well, welcome back. We have one of our favorite guests, Christopher Harris. Chris, you've got a few shows. You've got a YouTube channel now. Tell us a little bit about your platforms that you're on now these days.
So I have a podcast that's been around for a while. Here's Football Podcast. There's a YouTube channel. I have this almanac thing that I don't know when this is going to air, but August 1st, the almanac will be delivered, the first edition. 200 and something pages. I just counted 100,000 plus words in this almanac.
Wow.
Just like a profile of everybody, a profile of all of the players, hopefully, that we need to know, watching film and stuff like that. So yeah, and just follow @Harris Football. You'll see everything.
I tell you what, I've been following for a long time now. I've been listening to your podcast for a few years. Definitely a big fan of the Almanac, too, so I'm glad you mentioned that. I know you kind of move back and forth. Where are you at these days?
By the time people listen to this, I'll be back in Los Angeles. Right now I'm in Massachusetts, but I do spend the summer in Massachusetts. But I will be back in LA for the season.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, I tell you what, I live in St. Louis, and it's been like sitting on hell's front porch here with all this like heat and humidity we've been having lately. So I'm glad that you get to move back and forth. That's pretty good. Let's just dive into it. So, I know you watch a lot of film. I know you use a lot of stats, though, too. I mean, numbers are a critical part of fantasy, obviously. What do you kind of weight more, do you think? Do you feel like you weight the film more, the stats more? I'm sure it's a combination of both. What do you use?
I think you know the answer to that question.
Yep.
that's a leading question.
Long-time listener, man. I know the answer.
Yeah. That was a funny leading question. I mean, I love analytics in baseball. I love analytics across a lot of sports. I'm not convinced that analytics is worth all that much in football. It's 11 on 11 chaos, and it's not a repeatable interaction among players. So a batter and a pitcher, that's the same every time, 600 times a year. You can get some really good data out of that. The problem is Derrick Henry, the offensive tackle falls down, he goes for -3, or the defensive lineman falls down, he goes for 98, and suddenly his stats for the entire season are skewed.
Yeah.
My answer is definitely going to be film. There's a reason why the podcast's unofficial motto is "Film Don't Lie."
Yeah. I really appreciate about your podcast. You do film reviews and you watch every game. I mean, that takes a lot out of you, but I think you turn out pretty good content as a result of it. The NFL, the free agency was kind of big, not quite as big as the NBA this offseason, but the NFL, they still had some movement. What do you think about Antonio Brown with his new role in the Raiders?
So it would be hard to make an argument that the downgrade from Ben Roethlisberger to Derek Carr isn't a downgrade. Derek Carr didn't play well last year. The numbers have some people fooled, but he really didn't play well. And, the offense is also just a different offensive system. The Steelers are in shotgun more than any other team in the league, and they're in 3 wide as much as any team in the league, and they are a very wide receiver friendly system, especially for someone like Brown, who is just the best skill-wise still in the league, and just kind of uncoverable unless you're going to devote a safety over the top.
Yeah.
So, I feel like from year to year, the NFL reinvents itself to such an extent that I would be filled with hubris to say that I know for sure what the Raider offense looks like relative to the Steelers last year.
Yeah.
I can say though that Antonio Brown is a transcendent enough player that I think he's going to wind up being undervalued. I have him, for fantasy purposes, as my wide receiver 4. That's way higher than the market's going to have him. I think the lesson that I try to preach on my show that I think is getting through to the yacht clubbers, I think is getting through, but definitely certainly is not through to the fantasy public at large, and it's a place where I think we can take advantage of market inefficiencies, is don't try not to overweight what you think of situations beforehand, because situations change wildly, first of all, and secondly, if a guy is the best receiver in football, you're telling me that he suddenly is going to be completely stymied because it's Derek Carr. I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a top tier wide receiver for a long time. It's hard to think that a change of scenery would just be the end of it. Let's go on to his old teammate Le'Veon Bell. They've got a new head coach. They've got a young quarterback. They've been trying to put weapons on that offensive team. What are you thinking for Le'Veon Bell this year?
Yeah, once again, the first thing, I'm not intending to be critical of the introduction of Le'Veon Bell, but the first thing that people tend to go to is, young quarterback, ... situation. What do you think?
Yeah.
And in the end, I'm gonna grant you that my guess is that the Jets' offensive situation isn't as good as, let's say, 2017, the Steelers situation, when the offensive line isn't going to be as good. That Steelers had and probably still have one of the best lines in the NFL, and the Jets are work in progress. So I'm not going to say situation doesn't factor at all. But if the first thing that anybody wants to say about a player is, let's look at the depth chart, my ears tune out. I don't think we know depth charts beforehand. At least so many mistakes. I could go through 50 mistakes that people made last year. Alex Collins. Oh, who else is Rashad Penny, Royce Freeman. Who else is there?
Yeah.
He's got to get 100 million carries. If you're convinced Le'Veon Bell is a really, really Joe Mixon last year. The reason people didn't like Joe Mixon is because how can any running back succeed in the Bengals offense? Well, if he's really, really good, and if the offense is willing to be a little bit better because he's really, really good,
Yep.
then he's going to outperform where you draft him. So I think Bell is another case where, now, granted, when it comes to both Brown and Bell, we have an exterior factor, an external factor of age, especially when it comes to running backs.
Yep.
You know, I don't know. We don't have a lot of experience with people missing entire seasons, and so I can't. There's certainly more risk involved with Bell than if he had played last year, and therefore, you know, what does that do to the age 30 running back concern and all that stuff? But I feel like in both cases, because situation is going to be the first thing out of people's mouth, there's a chance to buy.
Yeah. So let's move on to the last one here. We talked about this before we started recording. It's probably going to be like your staple example for a crutch argument. We've got OBJ going to the Browns. He's surrounded with all kinds of weapons, all kinds of people. How do you think OBJ fits into Cleveland? What do you think his fantasy value winds up being ultimately?
Yeah, I mean, he's another one who's just he's a top 3 receiver. Like, he's just a great player, and it doesn't really matter who the quarterback is when you're that good. It matters to some degree. I'm glad it's not Blake Bortles. I think in the end, the reason why people would say, oh, Odell Beckham, rock solid safe going to a new offense. Oh, Antonio Brown, I'm super concerned going to a new offense, is this feeling that I know that Baker Mayfield is way better than Derek Carr, right? That's the feeling. And to be honest, last year that probably wasn't the case. Mayfield had different problems from Derek Carr, but he definitely had problems.
Yeah.
Now, he's a young player who we assume is going to get better, and if he does, he'll be better than Derek Carr. And I'm certainly going to draft Mayfield for fantasy, and I'm not going to draft Derek Carr. So I get why people would look at the situations, but I just think we're overweighting them. To compare Beckham and Brown is almost like looking in a mirror. It's that Spider-Man meme. Two dudes, staring at each other, and they're both really good, and they're both, I think, going to be really good and not going to be weighted down by their quarterbacks. And the thought about Jarvis, what does this do to Jarvis Landry? I just don't want to hear not from you, like in the world. I don't want to hear the argument that goes, oh, this is super great for Jarvis Landry because Odell Beckham will clear things up for him, and the slot will be open, and the middle of the field will be open. Similarly, you can say, oh, it's terrible for Jarvis Landry. So many targets are going to go to Odell Beckham. Jarvis Landry is screwed. This is what we call a crutch argument, because you can basically take the same stimulus. You can take Odell Beckham coming to the Browns and argue either side for Jarvis Landry. You can use it as a crutch to argue literally either side, and neither. Sometimes, generically speaking, it's the former, and sometimes it's the latter. That's why I'm just going to judge based on the player. I think Jarvis Landry is a somewhat limited player, but still very good as a nice possession receiver, good PPR option. I don't think any of that changes. He'll be fine.
Yeah. So, I mean, we had a lot of player movement, relatively speaking, this offseason for the NFL, but we had a lot of coaching movement as well, whether it be promotions or, just flat out new hires and fires, that kind of thing. Let's start with the Arizona Cardinals. They draft Kyler Murray, then they draft a whole bunch of wide receivers. They have Cliff Kingsbury, the kind of air raid kind of offense. What do you expect to see with this new kind of, coaching scheme and new personnel altogether out there in Arizona?
I mean, it's going to be a disaster at first because it's a rookie quarterback who's never seen anything, and if you're really relying on Larry Fitzgerald and a bunch of, rookie receivers, it's going to be bad. Christian Kirk is there. The question I have is something that nobody can answer until we see it in action. Like, how different really is what Cliff Kingsbury is going to bring be than the typical 4-wide, pedal down, short passing, rhythm, timing passing, very horizontal, not as vertical passing game that has kind of become en vogue. I mean, isn't it Chip Kelly? And didn't Chip Kelly lead to kind of everything that we have right now? Like, aren't the Eagles running this offense? And aren't the Chiefs running this offense? And aren't the Rams kind of in a different way running this offense? In the end, I have a feeling this doesn't wind up looking all that different. It fits. It fits with what the NFL is. I don't know that it revolutionizes anything. And in fact, I'm not going to be surprised if we reconvene next year or maybe the year after, and we talk about how the NFL, wow, remember when it reached air raid proportions? It went so crazy, and defenses went so light at, playing 6 defensive backs, playing Mark Barron, an inside linebacker, 220-pound players, an inside linebacker, and then offenses realized, what we should do? We should run. This is kind of how the Patriots won the Super Bowl last year. They looked at. Remember how the Chargers were such a genius organization for the way they played against the Ravens in that upset playoff game? Remember they were like they had. Oh my God, they played one linebacker as their beast defense. They played 104 defensive backs at the same time, and they were geniuses. And the Patriots looked at that and said, you know what we should do? We should run, and they ran. And then the Chief game was a little bit of a shootout, but they certainly ran a ton in that, and then they ran like crazy in the Super Bowl too.
Yep.
And to me, the NFL usually is sort of a back and forth. It's going to err on the side of passing, but I think we're going to reach a point where something that's as outre as the air raid will wind up maybe looking like the Wildcat at some point, because then offenses will find that they can take advantage of these light defenses by actually putting a fullback on the field, by actually running power runs and especially finding running backs who can do both, who can catch, David Johnson being one of them.
Yeah.
So the upshot is, what do I think it's going to look like? I mean, I think it's going to look. My guess is it looks a lot like Chip Kelly and all the sort of fast short passing offenses we've seen. I don't think it's going to revolutionize the league.
Right. We kind of talked about Cleveland a little bit already. I'm kind of excited to see whether they're effective, productive or not. Like, it's going to be hard for me to keep my eyes away from them just because of all the personalities and the everything that's brewing there in Cleveland. How do you think Freddie Kitchens handles all this, and kind of what do you think of the Cleveland Browns this coming season, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen him as a play caller, so I don't imagine he doesn't do it. In the end, I don't know that. I guess there are differences in philosophies. I mean, Gary Kubiak is going to call a game differently than Freddie Kitchens. Kitchens is probably going to err on the side of throwing a little bit, the way that league kind of generally does. But I don't view him as having some sort of over wild philosophy that we have to sort of tell ourselves stories about beforehand, the way we just did with Cliff Kingsbury. That hire definitely inspires the kind of conversation we just had.
Yeah.
The Browns have a lot of talent, and they're probably going to be as good as Mayfield is ready to be. How good Mayfield was last year is being overstated. He was really encouraging. He made a bunch of really good throws that you go, oh man, if that's really him on a longer continuum, that could be him. He could wind up being terrific, but he made so many mistakes. He got fooled so many times. I went back and watched a lot of Mayfield film this summer, and there are the Houston game stands out in particular, where he just got baited into a bunch of really stupid decisions that hopefully in year 2 and then in year 3 and then year 4 kind of go away.
Yeah.
It should. That's what happens. But the question really with the Browns offense is how good is the surrounding cast is good on offense, and the question is how good can Mayfield be ready to be.
So, last coach we'll talk about here, and I'm sure everybody's going to want to talk about it. You've got Bruce Arians going into Tampa Bay. I'm sure everybody wants to know, Bruce Arians, quarterback whisperer kind of guy, what's that mean for Jameis Winston's value? What are you kind of expecting to see out of Jameis and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, do you think, as far as a fantasy perspective goes?
I wish Jameis Winston's problems went as deep as scheme. I wish it was just like, oh, too bad, Jameis just never really played in the right scheme. That's not what Tampa is. No, they know that's not the case, right? They're trying something as a last ditch, but this is his year 5. They didn't re-sign him. He's gone if he plays bad this year.
Yeah.
He'll be a backup somewhere next year. And my guess is that's what's going to happen, because Bruce Arians is a good coach. And I know why people, for fantasy purposes, get excited about Arians, because of the star quarterbacks that he's worked with in the past, and because he does tend to want downfield passing, which can lead to big plays, which we like a lot, especially for our fantasy quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So, Arians is fun. He also is running the Air Coryell playbook from 1977. He's running a lot of ISO routes. A lot of the stuff Aaron Rodgers was complaining about with Mike McCarthy last year.
Yeah.
He's going to run a lot of not a lot of running backs in pass protection, and then a lot of quarterbacks stand there patting the ball while a receiver tries to win one-on-one. And heavens knows, Mike Evans can win one-on-one. Maybe Chris Godwin, if they're really going to run out of the slot, maybe he doesn't need to win one-on-one quite as much. So my feeling is that Winston probably starts the year with some good games, because that's a high-risk, high-reward kind of pass offense. You're gonna try to make big plays. You're gonna have Mike Evans isolated one-on-one, go way down the field, and let's hit him. And
Yeah.
Winston's been great at that in his career when he's not being stupid at other things. But the problem is it also gets quarterbacks killed. If you want to go back and look at all those players who quarterbacked adversarians, eventually everyone got hurt. Eventually everyone took shots because that's the offense. It's high risk and high reward.
Yes. So let's move on to another kind of big fantasy name. Todd Gurley. We saw kind of a pretty steep decline going from the regular season into the playoffs. How cautious should we be about going into the Todd Gurley waters? It's been rumored or reported now that he has arthritis in his knees. What do you think about his fantasy value for this upcoming year?
So another one where I'm gonna probably own a lot of Todd Gurley, depending on where I pick in a draft.
Yeah.
I would still be taking him in the first round. I think I have him 5, maybe among running back. I can't remember. Might be 4.
Yeah.
Which is to say, I'm willing to take on the risk for what the reward is.
Yeah.
They drafted Darrell Henderson. I like Darrell Henderson. I think he's a fun, good, cool player, but I don't think he's a lead back in the NFL. I think he's a piece.
Yeah.
A good piece who can take some of the weight off of Todd Gurley. But my, I talk about on my show, I talk a lot about the echo chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And the echo chamber with Todd Gurley has always been screaming. Remember when Todd Gurley was terrible at football, when there were thousands and thousands of people who would tell you how bad Todd Gurley was after his first 2 seasons? What a terrible wasted draft pick, and how he's just awful. And I would watch the film and I'd be like, what was he supposed to do? There's no quarterback and there's no offensive line. He's getting met in the backfield and every shot. And so as soon as they get a good coach and as soon as they get a better quarterback and as soon as they focus on the offensive line and then they sign, they assemble, it's Andrew Whitworth and then it's a bunch of other good guys too. Oh, suddenly Todd Gurley's really good, and now of course the screaming is, was he ever really good? It's just his situation. Anybody could be good on that team. Look at that. The fact is, Todd Gurley is one of the 4 probably most talented running backs in the league. I
Yeah.
would put Saquon Barkley, Zeke Elliott, Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley. They're the 225-pound backs who can do everything, who can play whenever you need them to. They can run patterns. They can do whatever you want. They're the guys that you want to reach for in a fantasy draft. They're the guys that you want to pay for in the NFL. I understand not paying for Christian McCaffrey. I understand not paying for Alvin Kamara. I understand when these guys, or Melvin Gordon even. As much as I like Melvin Gordon, he's not quite that level of player.
Yeah.
The interchangeability of running backs doesn't apply to those top, say, 4 guys. And maybe I'm skipping 1 or 2, but and so therefore, if one of those guys is coming at a severe discount because I have to assume the risk, I'm going to tend to be willing to take that shot, knowing that, okay, I get it. The fact is nobody's inside that knee, and just realize nobody's telling the truth. We don't know. He didn't play in the playoffs last year. They were lying. They were lying their asses off during the playoffs last year, saying, oh, he's fine. He's fine, right? He wasn't fine. It's not fake injury. It's definitely real. If I'm the Rams, my guess is I want to get away from 30 touches a game. I want to get down to 18. That would be great. And let's use Darrell Henderson that way, or Malcolm Brown, or someone else. Terrific.
Yeah.
I can totally feast on 18 Todd Gurley touches a game. If Todd Gurley's going to miss games because of his knee, well, then I'm too high. But if Todd Gurley just gets a reduced workload and averages 18 touches a game and plays all 16, he's in the top 5.
Yeah.
He's a great player. It's a great offense. He's going to score a bunch of touchdowns. That's what he does. He's a fantastic player.
Yeah, he's going to score the ball. He's going to catch passes. So, like you said, even with a reduced workload, I think he's definitely going to get production still. So I totally agree with you on that one. Let's move on to some offenses specifically that you think that, let's just hear your thoughts on them. Let's start with Kansas City. Everybody wants to know what Patrick Mahomes is going to do. Can he repeat, last year, that kind of spectacular season he had? Realistically, where do you think the Chiefs' offense lands this year?
So my guess is it's really good because it was really good last year.
Yeah.
And there were reasons to believe that it was driving the bus, that Mahomes was in fact really good. And so I'm often hesitant to endorse the situation and say, I'm sure I know what this is going to be. And even in the Chiefs case, I'm not sure. But it feels like one of those offenses, and I'm willing to draft based on the idea that it's one of those offenses. Damian Williams looks like at least the lead back for an offense that knows how to use him and should score a whole lot of points. Let's put it this way. If Damian Williams were the starting running back in Jacksonville or in Houston or whatever, maybe Houston's not the best example, but I would not be nearly as interested, right? So I would be hypocritical, or I would be lying. I am hypocritical. I'd be lying to say situation doesn't factor in at all. I'm just trying to kind of mitigate it to some degree.
Right.
starts feeling like we're arguing about politics. I'm shocked that he's not suspended.
Yeah.
But the NFL, this is more about the NFL than anything else. I just don't trust the NFL to adjudicate things in a correct or fair way or just way. They've earned enough of a terrible history in the last 10 years to where I just don't trust them.
Yeah.
I always think something nefarious is going on. And so, Tyreek Hill's there. It's good for the offense. He's an unbelievably good player. It's really great for Mahomes. Mahomes probably isn't going to throw 50 touchdowns again.
Yeah.
It's an impossible ask to do it again, probably, because things just have to work out perfectly. You're averaging 3 or 4 touchdowns every single week. It's they could still be just as good an offense and have him throw 38 touchdowns because that's just how things are. He's still, for me, the QB1, and Damian Williams, a pretty good player who finds himself in a great situation, is a high-level RB2, and Tyreek Hill is a wide receiver 1, and Travis Kelce is the tight end 1, and so I guess I'm saying, other things being equal, I'm expecting the Chiefs' offense to be good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was telling somebody this other day, it's kind of a lot to ask for a guy to throw 50-plus touchdowns again in, 2 consecutive years, let alone, once ever. That's a pretty rare feat.
I could give you, I'm just looking at my own almanac on this. Let's see, where's my stat? Oh, this is great radio while I read something out loud. Mahomes had 9 touchdown passes from inside an opponent's 3 last year.
Oh, wow.
So, okay, that's definitely part of the offense, but from inside the 3, you could just as easily accidentally have a running back fall in the end zone half those times, and suddenly the touchdown total goes down. And, I would be very surprised if he gets to 50, which is not a criticism of Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, 9 touchdown passes inside the 3. That's really kind of an outlier. You can't really bank on that happening from year to year. You wouldn't think, at least. So, another offense. The Dallas Cowboys. They've got Zeke. They've got Dak. They've brought in Amari Cooper now. They still have their offensive line. What do you make of them? Do you think that Amari can open things up for them and make the offense kind of hum the way they hope it will, or what do you expect to see?
So again, I'm not going to be the one who can tell you what situations are. That's kind of the absolute antithesis of what I do. So I really don't know. I can tell you what I think of the players.
Yeah.
Zeke Elliott is one of those guys, and so Zeke Elliott's worth spending on. Amari Cooper is extremely talented, but he seems to have brain cells that are missing. There's just something wrong with Amari Cooper. And I know there are some folks, including Cousin Josh on my show, who's willing to just say, that was all Oakland. That was just Oakland being lousy and infecting him and making him not care and making him not try and whatever. And I say, okay, except for even in the good game, even in the good stretch. Cooper, right when he got to Dallas, had a great stretch of about a month, and then December kind of disappeared. And disappearing is what he does. He was great in the Rams game, although it was a lot of comeback stuff in the playoffs. Cooper has wide receiver 1 talent, and I would not draft him as a wide receiver 1. He's in my top 20 for fantasy.
Yeah.
But he is extraordinarily up and down, extraordinarily frustrating to own. I've owned him a lot, and it can be a wild ride. And that offense, schematically, they fire Scott Linehan. They have a new offensive coordinator, but schematically, they have a decision to make on Dak Prescott contract-wise. I think they'll probably wind up signing him.
Yeah.
He's good, but he's limited. And at this point in his career, and now we're 3 years in, so I'm starting to think this is kind of what he is. They're not running the Tom Brady offense. They're not running even the Baker Mayfield offense. They're giving him, I don't want to overstate the case. Oftentimes, they're giving him one option. Look at that one guy. If you don't like it, run or scramble or get out of the way. He's not standing there and going, boom, progression, boom, progression, boom, progression. And standing in and standing tough and reading the field, all over the field. He's given half-field reads, a lot of rollouts, a lot of RPOs, and then either throw it or take off. And that's great, and he can be a good player that way. But it does kind of make me think it's not quite ready to be a major league offense, to say nothing of the fact that, you say the offensive line is back, but it was bad last year.
Mm-hmm.
It was maybe bad by its own standards, and part of that is Frederick being out the whole year. Was it Frederick or Zach Martin? It was Frederick, right? It was out the whole year. One of the two interior offensive linemen was out the whole year. I apologize for not having that instant recall, but
It's okay.
Zeke Elliott
So, we talked about some offenses. Let's talk about defenses. You know, it's probably not the most sexy topic for fantasy football, but it's one that you kind of want to figure out, you know, at the same time.
I'll save you the trouble just to stop playing with defenses in your fantasy league, but okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with that. For the people who like that defense, though, I mean, Chicago, they really kind of overwhelmed people, especially early on in the year. Kind of saw a little bit of regression. Khalil Mack, a lot of good defensive players. I mean, it'd be crazy to think that they're not going to be a top defense again, right?
Are we good at predicting the number one defense the year before? Is that where from the year before?
Well, I was going to almost lead with that, you know, because people were really big on Jacksonville.
Last year, would you have said the exact same thing about Jacksonville?
That's what I was going to say. You know, I almost led with saying that instead. You know, we thought Jacksonville was going to, you know, hit a home run again for us, and that really wasn't the case. So,
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, the issue is basically the defenses. Certainly, the quality of the defense matters.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's very, very difficult to predict from year to year. There's a ton of personnel changes across the league defensively, and you never really know how they're all going to fit together. And I would bet you a lot of money right now that Chicago won't be the number one defense by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Now, to take them in a fantasy league doesn't mean you're predicting that they're going to be number one. As long as they finish number 4, you had a good year. That was a good investment.
Yeah.
Except for just don't. I mean, the right strategy in fantasy is take your defense in the last round, or if you still use kickers, which you shouldn't, then do it the second last round, and just take the defense that you get, and don't spend any draft. Spend the minimal draft capital you can.
Yeah.
Just everybody hearing the sound of my voice, take your defense at the very end and just get who you get. It does not matter. We are not good predicting from year to year. I could run through the last 10 years. I don't think we've gotten a single number one defense ranked before the season started correct at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you know, defense. I mean, even the Bears themselves, they had 27 interceptions last year. Well, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen again. That's an insane number of interceptions.
Yeah.
You know, from year to year, they're going to be good, but my feeling is you wouldn't want to pay for the Bears defense.
Yeah, you know, a lot of times in weekly fantasy, whether it be like DraftKings or something like that, you know, my philosophy is if, you know, I'm in a league that does do defense or whatever, just give me a defense that doesn't give me a negative. You know, as long as you don't get me a negative, I'm going to be okay with it. And so...
Right. And in DFS, you rarely want to pay for the most expensive defense. You want to spend that money on the one receiver that you really like.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad we saved the best topic for last there. Nobody wants to hear that. No one even if you play defense, you're probably not too concerned with it. So that's going to wrap it up for us. I'm really happy that you came on again. You know, we'd be more than happy to have you on later in the season whenever your schedule will allow us. So thanks again, Chris.
Oh, thanks for having me. It was really, really fun.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks again to Chris Harris. Fletcher, very good job. Mm-hmm. So, guys, we will transition now to dart. Pew, 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 pew. We're playing darts, baby. It is a staple of each time we come on the show. Latency, what is the game for us today?
Bringing back the Hot Detective game from last week.
So the way that this game works is we will each throw a dart at the dartboard. It will land on a number, and it will represent a hot take that we will discuss whether or not that take is right or wrong. So, Fletcher, your throw. And we have a 6.
A 6. Over the span of Ballmer's ownership, the Clippers will have more titles than the Lakers.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's definitely trending towards yes right now. I mean, here's the thing. The closeout lineup for the Lakers, I think, is pretty good because you're going to have AD at the 5. You'll have LeBron handling things, and you'll have Danny Green, Avery Bradley, and Kuzma out there. I like that closing lineup.
No Boogie?
Definitely no Boogie, but Jeannie Buss is doing a horrible job as an owner. People don't respect Rob Pelinka. LeBron, as good as he's going to be in year 17, I think, he's obviously on the back 9 by all accounts and measures. So I do think that they will win more titles just because their window of winning titles right now seems fairly small, and it seems like under Steve Ballmer, things are going to be productive for a long time, especially when they get that new arena. People are going to want to play there, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Basically because of the ownership of Steve Ballmer and compared to the Jeannie Buss and the Lakers. Talk about earlier in the show, Steve Ballmer got the team, brought in small people to run the team. Meanwhile, Jeannie Buss taking advice from Kurt Amos' wife on how to do things.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, Linda, what should I do? That doesn't sound like it's going to work out too well.
Yeah, no, but yes, definitely Clippers more Lakers.
Yes, I am 100% all aboard the Clippers this year and years to come. I don't even think it's going to be close. I don't think the Lakers will get one, and I think that the Clippers are going to get a couple in this little run that they have with Kawhi and Paul George. So, Leighton, your throw. And we have a 14.
A 14. With the recent run of injuries, as of right now, the Giants are the worst team in the NFL.
Wow.
Whew.
That's tough. There's some bad teams, buddy.
The Redskins in the 10th division might be worse still. Shit. I'm going with the no.
That's tough to say.
I'm going to go with the no anyway, because a lot of teams don't have anything going for them at all.
Eli Manning has like 3 games in him.
Yeah, so Eli Manning can be good for 3 games. Saquon Barkley's still absolute stud. The defense will be okay some games, but there's some teams that don't have anything at all. So, top of my head, I'm going to go this a bit in the Redskins, same division, so I'm going to go no.
I agree with you. I think solely because there are some teams that have nothing, and the Giants might not have a whole lot, but they do have Saquon.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like you said, you don't even need Eli Manning to be good for 3 games. Just 3 separate halves, and that
Right.
might do the trick a few games. So, I don't think they are the worst team in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I think it's the Bills, man. I think the Bills are still really, really bad. Like last year, they had a very good fortune of turnovers to be able to win games. They had a lot of stuff happen to make them almost laughable. You know, they had the Vontae Davis thing, which kind of hyped everybody up. You never want to make an NFL player mad because all these guys are still NFL players, and if they have a little extra something to play for, they play better. I think the Giants are really, really bad. Now, if they start Daniel Jones at any point in the season, they officially become the worst team in the NFL, even though they have Saquon Barkley, who's probably a top 10 talent in the NFL. But I just don't see the Giants being that bad with a guy like Pat Shurmur, who can at least construct an offense to fare well for Saquon Barkley, who's one of the best players in the league. So no, I'm not going to say that they are the worst. So we've been unanimous so far.
We have been. That's a tough one. I'll think about that.
Hopefully this changes with my throw. And we have a 19.
19. Ezekiel Elliott will go through with a holdout and miss games this season.
Absolutely not. Jerry Jones, whether he pays him off the books, whether he does whatever, he will not allow that to happen because they know that he's the best player on that team.
Mm-hmm.
No matter the position, Zeke Elliott, there are 3 guarantees in life. Death, taxes, and Zeke Elliott being productive every single week for the Dallas Cowboys. He's the most consistent guy in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely.
No matter the position. Do you feel the same way?
No matter the position.
No matter the position, most consistent. I can think of one game that he was bad.
I was thinking about running backs, yeah, more consistent. But he's always good. He gets the ball 25 times a game. He doesn't get hurt. He doesn't fall in the football. He gets the yards. Every time.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to miss any games for the Cowboys either. You get traded, which I don't think that will happen, or I think Jerry Jones, like I talked about earlier, is going to respect him and find him as his guy and then find a way to pay him, even if it's through a bad contract or some fault of Jerry Jones. But I don't think he's going to hold out.
No. Oh, well.
Unanimous.
Unanimous.
All the way around.
All right, so let's go ahead and transition gears here, and we will get to the shittiest take of the week. Guys, what is your shittiest take of the week?
So mine comes from Odell Beckham Jr. So it was going to be my shit take last week, but something else instead. He said in a GQ interview that he felt disrespected by the New York Giants being traded to the Cleveland Browns. The New York Giants gave him the biggest contract in the history of football for wide receivers, and they traded him to a better situation in Cleveland. I can't just say that out loud. Cleveland's better situation than the Giants.
Yeah,
That's
weird.
nuts. But no, I would love to be disrespected that badly by a place I work for. Give me a humongous raise, biggest in company history, to a better company. I would love to be that kind of disrespected.
No, yeah, that's disrespect at its finest. Give him a huge contract and then send him somewhere else where it's a better situation for you all the way around.
I wish I had that kind of disrespect in my life.
Yeah, the only bad thing is he's not going to get the primetime games,
It's a shame.
even though he's bigger than the Giants brand.
My shittiest take is, I talked to you guys both about it already, but I watch a show called The Jump, and I like it, and but I don't
Is it
like
a good show?
I do.
Like the
It's
show?
a good show, yeah, but it's not good when they have Jorge Sedano fill in for Rachel Nichols. I even used to hate Jorge Sedano when he would fill in for Colin Cowherd, when Cowherd was still at ESPN. And so I've had a lot of distaste for Jorge Sedano for a long time, and this just reaffirmed my distaste for him. they were doing over-under for Vegas betting. And for people who don't know how over-unders work, you just bet on the total. And sometimes to keep, from like a tie or a push happening, they will put the total at a half because you can't have half a win. It doesn't work that way. And so they had the Rockets at 53.5 wins, and one guy said over, one guy said under, whatever. Jorge Sedano says, well, this might be a bit of a cop-out, but I'm going to go push. And then they immediately said, well, you can't have that. That's why you have the half a win on there. So that's pretty awful. And you think about the staff and all the planning that went into that show, how bad he has to mess up for him to go push. Like, that's just pitiful. And I couldn't even believe I heard that. So
They're going to hit the hook. They'll push on the hook. I absolutely love that. I actually got to watch that. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. You get beat on the hook, and you can push on the hook.
High network stuff we're watching here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's good stuff. My shittiest take of the week is actually brought to you by Golden Tate. So the guy is missing 4 games this upcoming season. He has already appealed. People are actually saying that there's a chance that he's going to win this appeal, which kind of, to me, is very bizarre. So he came out with a statement on Twitter. So he says, this past April, during the off-season, my wife and I decided to see a specialist for fertility planning. I started the treatment prescribed to me, and just days later, I discovered it contained an ingredient that is on the league's banned substance list. I immediately discontinued it. I reported the situation to the independent administrator of the NFL policy on performance-enhancing substances, and I spoke to my coaches and general manager. I did all of this well before a failed test was even confirmed. So he continues to go on about how he's been an upstanding guy. So you started this before you even checked whether or not it was going to be on the banned list. Guys, everything is on the banned list. Like, if you were worried at all that if this was going to be a banned substance, you would have checked prior. But instead, he claims that he had went out and, did his due diligence well after he had, started this supplement. I think it's kind of a cop-out. You could even tend it to be maybe a complete lie of the situation, and especially with, like, a fertility drug, like, I don't know exactly what he would be taking, but you would think the fertility drug would probably be on the banned substance list, just for the simple nature of what those drugs typically do. Yep. So I think this is a huge cop-out. I think it's a shitty way to go about it. Just kind of own up to it and just say, I got burnt. I didn't do my due diligence. I came out days later and I have this whole reputation to stand by. No. If you were that concerned about it, you'd have done it prior. So that is my shittiest take of the week.
I didn't know what it was. I just did it. It's not my fault.
Yeah, I don't know. They just handed it to me and I did it.
I know what's in that needle.
Yeah, he sounds like any other 16-year-old kid that just got burnt by something. So it is time for a little bit of MLB chatter. And guys, this week was the week for the long ball. MLB record, 4 straight days with 3 home run performances. You had Robinson Cano, Paul DeJong, Nelson Cruz, and Mookie Betts. All 3-run home runs in consecutive games. Or 3 home runs in consecutive games. The previous record was 2. Where would you put this on unbreakable records in the MLB?
So I was just going to say, it's kind of down the list. But I was thinking about, it's not where Ripken's game was, but whenever Jacob deGrom had that quality start streak last season, him and Bob Gibson, it's probably up there around that, because that's hitting 3 home runs in a game for one player for 4 days in a row. And that didn't happen before, obviously, so it has to be up there, probably in the top 5 or 6, break them all down.
Yeah, I was leaning towards, maybe not that impressive because, with the launch angle, everybody trying to hit home runs, but at the same time, it results in a lot of strikeouts as well. And so it's not just hitting a home run. It's like you either hit a home run or you don't. Like, hitting a home run is still a hard thing to do. You think about all the at-bats you have, and then, if you hit 30 of them, you do a lot. So it's pretty high up there for me. It's going to be pretty rare, I think, to see it even broken in the future.
Yeah. The most unbreakable record in MLB history has to be Cy Young. 511 wins.
Yeah. It's a lot of wins, yeah.
That's 50 wins for 10 years. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's a good amount of wins, so I think that's up there as the most unbreakable. And then you have Cal Ripken, especially in the day where everybody rests. But I think whenever you look at unbreakable records, to break this record, you have to have 5 straight days of this. You almost have to go a full week with guys hitting 3 home runs in a game. Mm-hmm. And if you look at great players in the past, You have guys like Sammy Sosa, who I think is one of the ones that has 6, and that's very few. Mookie Betts just set the record for the Red Sox with 5 of these. So the Red Sox have been around since like 1800, and he already leads with 5. This is just such a rare occurrence to have 3 home runs in a game, and then to do it in consecutive days. I don't think that we will have 5 days in a row ever with this happening. Now, I could see there being a span where you have 2 guys do it on the same day, but for the stars to align to do it on consecutive days, it is just so rare for this to happen. I think it's right up there with the Cal Ripken. Cy Young, obviously, that will never be touched, but I think it's right up there. So next up, we have... Oh, by the way, little fun fact, I saw this today. We have already seen more home runs this year than in all of 2014. Ball's not juice.
Impressive. How far are we behind 2015?
I don't know. I know that they are on pace to beat the record from 2017 by like 500.
Yeah, we're going to put a shadow that one.
Yeah, it won't even be close. So I think with like 30 games for each team left, we'll be talking about how they already passed the record. So guys, record watch. All season, we have casually brought up the historic pace of awfulness set by the Orioles. We officially have a new worst team in the league. Guys, the Tigers started off with a very promising start of 18-20. Now they officially sit at 30-70. That is a 12-50 record over their last 62 games. That is absolutely atrocious. Will this team break their own record of 119 losses in one season?
I don't think so, because 12-50 has to be one of the worst records over 62 games in the history of baseball. And they have to do that again to beat the record. And I just don't see it happening. You know how baseball works. This team will probably get hot at some point in time, win like 5 in a row, and then they'll lose like 115 and 14 games, but no, I don't think they'll break it.
I'm going to put it and say it's a pretty good chance. You know, you've got the Twins and you've got the Indians playing well in that division. You keep losing down the stretch, morale gets low, all of a sudden guys don't even want to be there, let alone go out there and play. So, I mean, I think it's a pretty good chance. So, I'm going to say yes.
I'm kind of bummed that this team had such a good start. Like,
yeah, the good start helped them. And he says it's a good start, but it's like 500 still.
Well, I mean, but I think they started off, they started off like with 8 wins in their first like 10, 11 games. So they started off out of the gates hot, but obviously have gotten really, really bad over the last few, and it doesn't look like things are going to change. They're going to have to replicate the bad stretch, which is almost historic, 12-50 down this stretch. I think they're going to flirt with it. I think they have potential to break this record. I'm going to give them like a 30% chance to do it just because crazy stuff happens in baseball, and they could really be like the Orioles that one week where they beat the Red Sox in a series right before the Red Sox go out there and just put up like 80 runs on the Yankees. So weird stuff happens in baseball. I think it could possibly happen, though, and I'm excited to watch
I was talking last week about how, like, some teams, we were talking about, like, some of the best teams in baseball, and they have, like, total run differentials for the season where it's, like, over 100. Well, the Detroit Tigers are minus 210 for run differential for the entire season. Like, that is so bad. Like, you could take off 100, and it would be, like, you know, what the Twins are doing right now for plus run differential. It's, like, so crazy how bad they are.
210? That's an average of losing every game by 2 runs.
Yeah.
And they've won 30 of those.
Well, I mean, they've got like 13 wins at home and 17 on the road. It's not like they're winning a whole lot, you know what I mean?
That's unbelievable. So next up, we have the St. Louis Cardinals. They have taken over sole possession of first place in the Central.
Huge lead.
12-4 since the All-Star break. Paul Goldschmidt has now hit 6 home runs in 6 straight games, 2 shy of the MLB record. Guys, will the Cardinals continue their second half magic that they always seem to have and win this division?
Give us the good news, Leighton.
No, fuck no.
Okay.
Let us in hell. Since the All-Star break, they played the Diamondbacks 3 times. They're a good team on 2 out of 3 there. But then they played the Pirates 7 times and the Reds 4 times. They lost to the Astros last night, down 5-0 right now in the 6th inning.
What we did 2 days ago, though. We beat them.
We won the game, that's right. But then starting Tuesday, they played the Cubs in 3, then played Oakland, then played the Dodgers. And then close of the season, they played the Brewers 8 times and the Cubs 9 times.
Yeah.
So basically they're playing good teams here, and they're going to fall back down to third in the division where they belong.
Yeah, you pretty much hit what I was going to say. You know, they've got a tough schedule coming up, and they close out with a tough schedule too. The Cubs and the Brewers are 2 good teams, I think. I will say this, the Cardinals have done some of their best work being shitty. So
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hopeful, cautiously hopeful, but at the same time, no, I'm pretty pessimistic when it comes to the Cardinals right now. So no.
Yeah, the thing that scares me as a Cubs fan is that the Cubs actually have to go on to the road to the Cardinals, which no team has won a game on the road yet. Road teams are 0-9 in games between the Cardinals and Cubs. But like Leighton said, the schedule was very favorable. Now, you can only beat who's in front of you, so it's good that they were actually able to go out there and beat those teams. But 12-4, over 16-game stretch, that's not sustainable, especially whenever you have the Cubs, Dodgers, and then, like Leighton said, you play the Brewers a ton, the Cubs a ton. I think this is going to kind of come back to reality for the Cardinals. So, guys, it is time to put our producer in the spotlight. Each week he goes out and he watches several different movies and he brings one in to review. I think I know where he's going with this one today, but Leighton, see, what do you have? 1 2 1 2 Pip's Entertainment Review. Sit on down for a movie to view.
This week, I'll review the first movie I've ever seen with Drake. Actually, not the first time I've ever seen. First time I've seen with Drake in at least 4 or 5 years.
Good movie.
Since The Great Gatsby.
Was that after Django? It's one of those two. But anyway, though, it's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh my goodness, this movie was
Great movie. Written by Quentin Tarantino. His penultimate film. Starring Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, Margot Robbie. Great movie.
Only
I
thing
go
we're
ahead and
missing is
spoil
Matthew
something for
McConaughey.
I'm going to spoil something for people. Brad Pitt does the best acting job I've ever seen on camera.
He was pretty good.
I don't know
Troy.
the best I've ever seen on camera, but probably the best job of Brad Pitt's career, yeah.
Better than
Ve-
Troy, huh?
Very, very good. Yes, better than Troy.
Wow, that was pretty good.
Better than Troy. So before we get to the spoilers in this part, because Dixon coming in at some point in time.
No, I won't spoil this one. I can't spoil this for people.
Okay, so people don't know, because Drake didn't know this, this is kind of a known thing. The day of the movie, it follows a guy named Jake Cahill, this is Dalton, who played a guy named Jake Cahill on TV, who is kind of an actor who's on a downturn of his career, and basically him dealing with that and coming to terms with who he's going to be as an actor now going forward. Backed up with this is Charles Manson and the family. They're in town and they're there. I can't tell you too much about that really because that's a humongous spoiler to know anything more than that. But this, for a Tarantino movie, I've seen all of them. It kind of Tarantino story in a way. I put this probably number 4, number 5 on movies for me. Not good as Django, not good as Pulp Fiction, but it's definitely better than the ones who could come out more recently, kind of like Inglourious Basterds. I get more on that one. The movie overall, though, Tarantino did a very good job of writing it. Nobody can write narrative and monologue quite like Tarantino. In the movie, there's a scene in the movie where this guy meets Richard Dalton, and it's like you were talking to your favorite baseball player or basketball player. You are starstruck by this guy, and you want to talk to him about his career, what he's done, and then he starts finding out things that he has in his house, and the guy just immediately knows, oh, you got that from this movie. And it's hard to write things like that. And then DiCaprio, he brings it. Brad Pitt talked about it. Cliff Booth did a really, really, really phenomenal job. And for a guy who didn't have an Academy Award yet, Brad Pitt's on a downturn in his career and at real life too. She had a great time to give him one. Margot Robbie's in it. She's not in it much. I like her to be in it. Sharon Tate is more just an idea in the movie than an actual person in the movie. Didn't like that too much, but the movie is still very, very good. The music's awesome as always, Quentin Tarantino. Gonna give this movie 2.6 dips.
Wow.
Great movie. Make sure to check it out. It is 2 hours and 40 minutes long, so you'll be in the theater for over 3 hours by the end of it all.
Bless.
But it's well worth it. The time went
flies.
by in no time.
Time flies.
No time.
I wanted more. And, there's not a guy in this world that can keep me confused as Quentin Tarantino for 2 hours to ultimately make everything come full circle. Like, you're sitting here watching this movie and you see, 3 different stories, kind of opening up. They don't even come together until the very, very end. You have 3 separate storylines that are all just very, very out there, hitting you at separate times, and you're like, how in the hell is this going to all come together? And then bam, at the end it does, and it just makes the movie that much better because it kind of keeps you on your edge of your seat, just wanting more. This movie was freaking amazing. Brad Pitt, the whole first hour, I was sitting there trying to like Leonardo DiCaprio's character more than I liked Brad Pitt's character, but there's a point in the movie where that absolutely changes, and I was all on board for Brad Pitt. I've never been a huge Brad Pitt guy, been a huge Leonardo DiCaprio guy, obviously, if you've listened to the show before, and his character was just awesome.
Yeah, I think about Brad Pitt's role in the movie, and Cliff Booth in general. And Cliff Booth, he's one of the best characters Quentin Tarantino's ever written. Like,
Absolutely.
Christoph Waltz in Django is a good one. What's his name? John Travolta, Vincent Vega in Pulp Fiction is really good too. Cliff Booth's up there with all of them. Like, he really nailed that character. And for not being a leading role in the movie too, he really knocked that one out of the park. And that's what he does best. And you go to Tarantino movies, the lead actors never wins Academy Awards or get the spotlight in the movies. Christoph Waltz has 2 Academy Awards, both for supporting actor for Tarantino movies. Because Tarantino does such a good job at making the lead actor, a supporting lead actor, what he wants to do, makes such great side characters for them, and that's what he does best. Like I said, he writes the best monologue, best narrative of anybody ever.
See, in Pulp Fiction, I actually liked the Bruce Willis character more than I liked John Travolta.
Yeah, supporting character.
Exactly.
If you want to call him a supporting character, Pulp Fiction doesn't really have a supporting character. They all support each other in one way or another. But yeah, he does that great.
Yeah.
Great movie. Go check it out. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 2.6 dips.
So guys, it is time for us to give our bold predictions for the sports week. Guys, what are your predictions?
Oh man,
This is rough.
There's nothing going on with sports really.
I got one.
Go for it, Fletch.
It's not bold, but it just shows how stupid everything is. I predict that over this week, there's going to be a highlight of an NBA player doing drills in an open gym, and people are going to use that tape of nobody guarding him to tell me why he's going to be great this next
Markel
year.
Fultz.
Come on, Anthony.
Ben Simmons, Carmelo Anthony, you name it. We're going to see it this week. Mark my words.
We'll also hear about something from training camp where some guy doing super good, but in the end misses the cut of the team or puts up nothing this season.
Coaches lie, so fuck them.
Yep. He has had one great practice, gets talked about, gets watched a little bit. Come season time, he starts playing week 11.
So Cubs-Cardinals kick off this week. I think that the streak of home teams winning games in that series will come to an end. It's at 9 right now. 3-game set in Busch. I think the Cubs are geared up to steal one out of a series that is almost, well, not even almost, has been impossible to win a game on the road. Anything else, guys, before we wrap this show up?
Nope, got it all.
Okay. And
I
on that
covered
note,
everything.
and on that note, for Drake, for Leighton, and Fletch, Dippers, as always, stay saucy.